In this part 2 of free video tutorial series, we'll be making a recreation of the wind current mechanic in Miliastra Wonderland Beyond mode. In the second part of the tutorial series, we'll be making a wind current. So let's first head to the prefab library, because we'll be making it as a prefab. Open up dynamic units, and we want to drag in an empty model, just like last time with the animal ring. So first, let's add in the VFX. So it's also in the looping effects, and we'll type in wind current. Like this one. Yep. We want the other one also. Wind current, rising wind current. So if you want to see them both together, you can click the preview combination, check mark both of them, preview. Excellent. It's kind of like the actual thing in the game. Now we want to add a common component, character disruptor device, advanced editing. Click the new. This time we'll be using a force field device. We want to point it upwards. So you see here, the way the force field will push is it will push upwards. And for the outer sphere, we want it to be 10. Inner, we want it to be 8. And within the inner diameter, we want the speed to be 8 and the outer to be 0. So within the inner kind of sphere, it will push 8 meters upwards. And if it's in the outer sphere, it will push 0 meters. But between these 2 points, it will slowly go from 8 meters to 0 meters. So that's why we have it as 0. So slowly it stops pushing the player up. Next, we want the trigger area. This is where it will actually trigger. We set these to 4, 10, and 4. Mistaken. And we want to push this up like so. So within this area, this trigger area, it will have these influence within those spheres. Save it. We name it wind current. We will do the same thing with what we did with animal ring, where we have like a model. So we can go to the decoration editor. Add, this time let's add a tree. I'll use this tree. And I'll give it around this height. Disable the collision for sure. Make sure that's disabled. Override and save. Let's just double check. Yeah, it's around the same height. This is a good visual indicator. And now we can go back to empty placement. Let's test it out. Plop in the wind current. So it will push us around that height. Press test play. Okay, the wind current works, but we forgot to disable the object collision here. So let's exit out of that. I want to disable the native collision here. And we want to add the unit status that we did in the first part of this tutorial series, hide object model. So now we actually go back in. We don't see the tree. There's nothing blocking our way. And it acts just like kind of like in the actual Genshin game. Notice how it also elevates our jump. We'll explain more in details about how the force field works in the later part of the video, but for now, let's reconfigure the scene and make use of this wind current. You can adjust it how you like, but I'm just gonna delete the slope here. I'm gonna make sure I can move this. Yep. And because we have the wind current here, we can actually lift this up a bit. And we can, let me turn off the ground level placement so I can just plop it right in front of my camera. Towards, drag it. And we can actually drag this up all around here. So the player should be able to jump up, float towards the animal ring. Oh, wait. Actually push this down a bit. This will push them up. And then finally, they'll be able to access higher finished platform. Save it. Test it out. Okay, let's switch back to my mannequin. Oh, we still see the tree. Hold on. Did I made a mistake here? I made a mistake. Let's double check. Prefab. Did we forget to save this? Oh, yeah. Make sure when you change the things, you change it in the prefab and not the entity. So, because if you change it individually here, when you place another of the prefab, it's not going to have the same settings. So in the prefab, disable native collision, and we'll need to add the unit status here. That's a common mistake that sometimes I make, where I forget that I'm using a prefab. So now this is already, we have native collision here, and we have the unit status. Yep. Now, if we do this, it should be all based on the prefab. There's no individual adjusted things. That pushes us forward a bit. Excellent. So that's basically how to make a wind currents with some mistakes, but you might make the same one, so hopefully you don't. But if you do, that's kind of how you fix it. And so that's the wind current tutorial, and you could continue watching and I'll explain how the force fields work, or you can jump to the last part of the video series where we make another mechanic. So we went over how the outer and inner sphere allows for smoothing of velocity. This is what happens when both the outer and inner sphere are the same size and speed. There's no smoothing, and we can see the character bobbing up and down away from the trigger area. Force fields can stack. Here we have a setup where there's one force field versus multiple force fields stacked together. As you can see, the stacked force fields add their influence together. This means that forces of equal strength but opposite directions will negate each other. Unlike ejectors, force fields' influence only exists within the trigger area. Here we see a wind current, but with a reduced trigger area. One ejector and multiple force fields can all apply influence to the character at the same time. Force fields only influence up or down when gliding, or the initial part of the jump animation. They can't lift the player right off the ground. Here we demonstrate by turning off gravity for the character. No vertical force can be applied by the force field.